All right, we're recording, right? My mic is on. All right, let's do this. So, let's finally get the last of the bad news out for the Rangers or for the Rangers and the Mets because both have just been nothing but bad news today for me. So, let's get this done. Let's get this over with. We're gonna go through scenarios that the Rangers could do right now for a either short term, like a short, long term, like what they could do line combination wise, assuming they don't make a move or a move that they could make right now before the deadline. Because realistically, if we're talking about a move that they can make, it really a Forsberg move, a Hurdle move, a Tarasenko move. None of those are realistic options in my eyes right now. So we could. I don't really know. I'm doing this straight off, like just raw going into this, so I don't even have a clue of scenarios that the Rangers could go down for a solution on the wing for Sammy Blais. Which, first of all, let's talk about. We're gonna throw him on LTIR to free up the cap space, but let's just say right off. Let's talk about the injury right off the rip here as I plug my phone in quickly because it is low. But let's talk about the injury. So it is a torn ACL for him. And the fact that there is no punishment to PK Subban blows my mind, considering that this happened to Zegras, Lucic, and then Reeves in the preseason. And then Subban's known to throw dirty hits and slew foot players for years now. And the fact that he doesn't get any sort of punishment for this is beyond mind boggling to me. And it's such bullshit, in my opinion. But I mean, it is the NHL after all, so I can't really say that I'm too surprised. And also, I need to fix the lines because holy shit. Because if I look at the lines that Cat Friendly has by default here, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. No, was that right? Okay, because I was thinking McKegg is up. So yeah, Sammy Blais, and then we move you guys scratches that. Do that. With the green, please, for the love of God, go away. Thank you. For the green here. But uh for what the Rangers could do without Sammy Blais, I mean, this is most likely going to be the line combinations for now. And then assuming McKegg does come up, I'd imagine he subs in for Goche every now and then. And then they move maybe Heedle to the wing. Maybe they'll do something like this on nights that they decide I just need to get rid of the green. It's gonna piss me off. Maybe they do something like this on nights that they have Goche sit out, but I don't really think that that's the most ideal. I think the most ideal was to do lines again, boom, boom, and then you take a seat here. I think these are your most ideal lines for the short term. Well, technically, it's not the most ideal. The most ideal would be to throw Lafreniere on the first line, in my opinion. But uh, in terms of trade options, I mean, this is going to be interesting because I'm not really sure what trade options they could do. I'm not sure they have a lot because who no one's going to be selling off pieces now. It's way too early in the season for anyone to be selling off except for a team like the Arizona Coyotes. But with a team like that, I mean, who except Phil Kessel, maybe Kessel's really the only option that would be somewhat realistic for that. But I don't think the Rangers want to go down the Kessel route because that's $8 million towards your cap, and you're limiting yourself at the deadline for a guy like Forsberg, for a guy like Hurdle, for any guys like that. You're very limited with your options there, unless I mean I'm not even sure of other. I don't think Arizona really has any guys that you could go grab. I mean Ryan Dzingel, sure maybe at a $1.1 million cap hit, but realistically, you want to fill the hole that is created without Sammy Blais, with it making some sort of impact Toronto does need goaltending. So if you did want to go down a route of a Georgiev trade, or maybe even Keith Kincaid they have interest in because of the fact that they're that desperate for goaltending, since Mrazek, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. And then Alexander Kerfoot could be someone that they look at just for the sake of throwing out a trade. I'm not saying Kerfoot is the most realistic nor the most ideal option. He's not having the worst season, but like I said, I'm not saying he's the best option. He's not the worst option either. There's just something putting together for the short term. So say you did want to do that and you throw in Keith Kincaid to the trade, you definitely would have to throw a roster player into this, because there's no way that Toronto would want to make the trade without throwing in a roster player. So you'd have to probably throw in a guy like Julian Gauthier, because they do need help on the wing still. That's for sure. You'd probably have to give up someone that's at least maybe close to ready, which I don't really know who that could be. Maybe you do throw a Matt Robertson in, but I feel like that's kind of an overpay at that point. I mean, if you could do something like this, and then since you have 2 second-round picks, you do something like that. I don't think that Toronto would necessarily accept this, but this is a base trade idea, because they are in need for goaltending. They are in need for a winger, and Kerfoot has not been doing the best for Toronto, at least from what I've heard. But then you do have a lot more options here, because Kerfoot could play center, Kerfoot could play the wing. You could throw him on that top line wing if you want to, which I don't think they should, but I would like to see if they did maybe go for a guy like Kerfoot, go with line combinations like you go with something like this, and then you back, and then go with Kerfoot centering that. Beetle on the wing there. I mean, this would realistically be your best bet if you did go out and get a guy like Kerfoot. The only thing is he has 2 years left on his contract, so I don't know if Kerfoot's really someone that the Rangers are going to want. The only thing is, if they do trust him going forward, as if they're willing to part ways with Strome, which I don't think they should, but if they want to, then you have a guy at center that is locked up for an extra year at a very reasonable cap hit. So it's not like, if you lose Strome, you're going to have that big of a hole in your roster. So I think that Kerfoot, if the Rangers wanted to go down that route, they could. I just don't think it's going to happen realistically, just because I don't know if Toronto is willing to make a move like that. But it could, it could maybe be an option if Toronto wants to shake some things up. In terms of other options, I mean, options here are thin. Options here are very thin. I'm trying to look at the teams and think maybe who. Montreal is a team that could maybe move some pieces. In terms of who they'd move, though, I mean, Ben Sherratt's rumored, but that's obviously defense, so that doesn't, help the wing situation that they have here, or the wing problem that they have here. I mean, they don't really have a lot here that I could see them moving. So Montreal, you're kind of out of luck there. Buffalo is a team that would most likely be willing to part ways, although Buffalo has been stubborn before with moves with us, old Jack Eichel situation. But I don't know if there's anyone on Buffalo that's worth acquiring. Maybe Hinostroza, he's not having the worst of seasons right now, as I accidentally turned my phone flashlight on. He's not having the worst of seasons, but he's not a long-term option, but he could be a solid piece to add, because you would not have to give up much. Buffalo would probably be willing to honestly take a 4th-round pick for Hinostroza. Hinostroza would go right in he'd go right in your bottom 6, and then for now, you could rock something like this with your lines. So, but I don't know if it's realistically, the best route to go. I think that obviously your top 2 routes is to go, or top 3 are Forsberg, Hurdle, or Tarasenko. But none of those teams, I think it makes sense for them to sell off, especially the Blues with Tarasenko. The Blues are killing it right now. So I don't see how I don't see something getting done anytime soon. Realistically, I don't think the Rangers are going to make a panic move right now. I think that they're just going to rock with what I had set up before here. Move you there, move you there. This is probably what they're going to do for now. And it sucks, but this is probably going to be what they do. But those are just like, two little small trades that if they wanted to potentially make, they could. But I'm not sure if they. I was gonna say, why is the roster size like that? It's up here, but I don't think that it's really ideal to be making moves like that. Maybe Hinostroza, though, that wouldn't be the worst move just for a depth piece, because he does at least produce points. Because a guy like Dryden Hunt has not been producing points for the bottom six, so it wouldn't be terrible to get a guy like that. But again, it doesn't really help you out too much, and it's not going to be a difference makers. But yeah, with Blais out for the season, you bet your ass the Rangers are making a move, at least at the deadline. I don't know about a move now, but at the deadline, you bet your ass they're making a move now, because they have to. They have to at this point, because Gautier's been in and out of the lineup. Same with McKegg. They're not going to want to have them one of the two, or have them rotate, or have one of the two in the everyday lineup. They're going to want to make some sort of move. It's just a matter of when they make this move. So those are kind of the panic scenarios. But at the deadline, if they wait it out, if Nashville or San Jose fall apart like they're expected to, specifically Nashville, just because of the need at wing, I don't know what Forsberg would necessarily cost. You definitely would have to give up like a Zach Jones, which sucks, but you would have to do it. At this point, I don't know if they put Hedel in the deal. You throw in maybe a Julian Gauthier, a guy with upside. You throw in a Morgan Barron. They do have a bit of a need at goaltending right now, but I don't know if you want to give up on any of your goaltenders. You could start with something like that. Maybe you throw in a middle to lower end guy, but it's not like the Rangers really have that. I mean, Matt Robertson maybe is one of those guys, or a Hunter Skinner if you wanted to throw him in. And then they'd probably have to throw in their first round pick to get something like that done, which obviously if they did do this, this would be a very ideal scenario, because this would be what you rock for the rest of the year pretty much. And then maybe you do get a bottom six guy, because Dryden Hunt, he does some good things, but it's not like he's producing the points. You want guys in your bottom six that are going to produce points from time to time, and Dryden Hunt has just not been it at all. So I don't know what they're going to do, but this would be a deadline scenario more than a right now scenario. I went over the right now scenarios. This would be my deadline scenario. And then this definitely, getting a guy like Forsberg definitely improves the power play a lot. I just don't know. I mean, this trade, you might even have to give up more, honestly. You might have to throw in another draft pick, like a third or a fourth, maybe another prospect, but it's going to be interesting now with the loss of Sammy Blais, what they do. It definitely is going to be interesting to see, because if they did want to go out and get a guy like Hurdle with Forsberg, which I think that the Rangers should do, you might as well, while you have this cap space, go balls to the wall spending here. This would be a trade where you have to get some salary retention if you can from San Jose. If they did go half retained, you definitely would have to give up. I mean, the second rounder is a given to be in that deal. You would probably have to give up a Matt Robertson, or that's not what I wanted to do. You'd have to give up Robertson. Hedel, then you could afford to lose, so you throw him into the deal. That also helps with some of the cap a little bit to give you some flexibility here. Maybe you throw in an Adam Huska because San Jose's goaltending long term, we don't know what's really going to be, what's going to be. And then maybe you throw in another, I mean, Carl Henriksen. I don't know if he's been doing too great, but you throw him in and then maybe another draft pick, like a third for next year. I'm not saying that this is going to be a trade that happens, but just as a idea for now. And then I don't know what they do. I mean, Hurdle as your third line center would be pretty freaking scary, but I don't know if you want him necessarily on your third line, but this would probably be the route they'd go. And then you still do have cap flexibility to go after left shot defenseman. And a guy that I personally like a lot as that left shot defenseman is on Detroit. And Detroit would probably be willing to move him. That is Nick Leddy. And the reason why I'm so for going after a Nick Leddy is because of the fact that he could quarterback a power play, which the Rangers have had problems with all year. Trouba has not been doing it. Niels has not been cutting it. Patrick Nemeth has not been solid enough. So you getting a guy like Leddy would be nice if they could. And Detroit does want Kravtsov. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to give Kravtsov up for Nick Leddy, but you know, Detroit, you could throw in. You don't want to completely deplete the farm system here. So this would be more of a draft pick kind of trade, I feel like, where you give them one of the 2 fourths and then you give them maybe that third. And then Georgiev could get moved in the offseason to regain some draft capital. Nick Leddy slots in there. Or you could even do something like this. I'd probably be more intrigued of the defensive pairs being like this. And you send, well, Libor Hayek you send to the Sun. So you get him out of here. Nemeth becomes a scratch. And he's a good guy then to have. God forbid you have someone get hurt on your blue line. He's more than capable of filling in. You still have 1.7 million cap space if you wanted to maybe add a fourth line winger to replace Dryden Hunt. You have a lot of flexibility with this, but I think that this would be a pretty ideal scenario if the Rangers were able to, you know, do something along these lines. I wouldn't hate this. I wouldn't hate if they did this because then, yeah, you have another guy that could quarterback a power play. You have 2 guys that could slot in on your power plays. And it would just be, I think this would be a very scary team heading into the playoffs, assuming they make it. But that's what I would do at the deadline personally if I'm the Rangers. But they probably won't. But yeah, I think that spending is ideal because you're locked up long term to all these contracts. So you definitely want to maximize the last year that you have cap flexibility because you are locked in with this roster pretty much otherwise going forward. So that's what I would do personally. But let me know what you guys think, what the Rangers maybe should do right now to replace Blais, or if they should just wait at the deadline for a scenario kind of like this to shake out. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And yeah, let's go Rangers.